FBA podcast live stream. We are here with Brett Kaufman from Wellspring Media. We're going to be talking email marketing today. Brett, welcome to the live. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I know we juggled this appointment four times now. So
we have,
haven't we? Finally got on the same page.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why that we've stuck at it. I mean, I quite often will just abandon things sometimes because I'm so busy with the podcast. But I think that, you've got a lot to offer in this topic. And I think the topic's really important. Email marketing is, famously got the highest ROI by a large margin of any form of marketing. And it's not something that's easy to do as an Amazon seller. So that's really the main focus that we're going to get into today. For anyone who's listening live, thank you for joining us, or indeed on the replay. Do feel free, if you're on the live, to pop any comments into the chat, and I will see them by the magic of Restream here on whichever channel you're on. And sometimes we can weave those in. More likely, you've got a question that comes up after we finish the live, and in which case, do pop it in and we'll circle back around and answer it. So that said, we are going to do our usual thing, which is to record our podcast as live. So Brett, are you ready to plunge in and spill the beans on email marketing?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Let's do this. Right, camera back to me, and here we go for our recording. Ladles and jelly spoons, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast. Let me try that again. Even record that fresh. Ladles and jelly spoons, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, the place to be for 6, 7, and 8-figure Amazon private label sellers. And indeed, if you have any kind of e-commerce store these days, there may be a lot in today for you. We're talking email marketing with Brett Kaufman from Wellspring Media. Really important topic. I think there's a lot of value, like a lot to be had for anyone that I personally work with, as well as all the people out there. So Brett, warm welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward.
Yeah, me too. So first of all, just introduce yourself and Wellspring Media.
Absolutely. So I'm one of three in our company, Wellspring Media. We've been in existence for 12 years, generated 45 million for our clients, but most importantly, everything that we do comes down to words. What I like about how we all got together, because we're a small boutique agency, which we joke we're lazy. We don't want to prospect this tons. We like partnerships. And the reason why we enjoyed partnership with our clients, because it really allowed us to get really dirty in the data, meaning we really got to understand the nitty gritty on why things converted super well. So people wanted to hire us for a long period of time, hence why we all fell in love with email marketing as the main driver of our business. And interestingly enough, all three of us came together from very different backgrounds. I came from a political background where I was doing bipartisan pro-Israel lobbying. So I got both the Republicans and Democrats to yell at me. And I had to ask people to invest in basically an idea, anywhere from $2,000 to $100,000 first time meeting me. And when I say an idea, they didn't get a t-shirt, they didn't get a tax write-off. You invest in our ability to bring Republicans and Democrats together on foreign policy issues. So I had to get really good at text scripts, email scripts, and writing words that captivate, not just sell, captivate, connect, and then convert, our 3 C's. And then there is my other partner, Yogev. He actually started in a SaaS company, so we have more of that technical background with email marketing. And then the founder of the company, John Romanello, who he himself is a best-selling author, and he's ghostwritten for 5 other books that became best-selling authors. So to put a nice bow on everything, words matter. It's not about the template, it's not about the structure, which we'll get into. It's how the words come across and how they convey. And we all three of us love words in our own way, and just came together so nicely.
Very, very cool. Yes, compared to what you were just describing as a sale, without getting politics, always a dangerous thing to mention on any podcast and social media channels. But what I would say is, compared to that, if you're offering somebody a product in return for their hard-earned cash, it's going to be a lot easier to sell, I would imagine. And the other thing is words matter. It's funny that there can be a feeling that images instead of words matter in e-commerce, or video instead of images. And I think obviously images are very powerful, particularly in e-commerce, maybe more than service-based or political stuff can be maybe encapsulated in words still. But I think people miss out big time when they miss out on the words. And email, because it's not really a visual medium, although I know you can insert stuff in it, I think gets neglected for that reason, in my opinion. Is that true, do you think, from your clients? Are people neglecting email more than they used to?
Yeah, so we have clients across the spectrum. And a lot of the clients that we've seen that really benefit from email marketing, just like your clients, are e-commerce stores. And for them, yeah, you can throw in gifts, you can throw in some pictures, but it actually doesn't. It actually hurts some of your open rates. That's what we see through a lot of testing. What we've mostly found, though, because it's not necessarily like a war against different modems of communication, whether it's words, videos, or audio, it's that if you need to portray as passionately that you speak to someone one-on-one or from a stage like you're very good at or from this podcast, that needs to have the same effect on the page. And that's where the disconnect comes in. So you could be so good on video, your product description, whatever you're selling there, but if the words fall flat, it doesn't transfer the emotion. And that's why we say when words matter, it's the mechanism how we're transferring it, i.e. email. That's where like the words really come into play.
Yeah, it's a strange thing how when you simplify the medium, you kind of make the job simpler but harder, I suppose, is my experience of it. So let's just deal with an elephant in the room now before we go any further. Why are we going to bother with emails at all if you sell on Amazon? Isn't it either futile because Amazon keeps so much of the customer data for itself, or on the other hand, we don't need it because Amazon has a ton of hot prospects ready to buy?
That is a great question. And yes, Amazon is a great platform. You can sell a lot from there and you can constantly be fishing to get new clients. However, our belief is that if you can get those clients on your email list, you can sell to them again and again and again, because they already buy from you once, have a great experience, they'll buy from you again. That's what data has shown us. And so it's a two-pronged approach. It's not one or the other. I want you to be selling as much as you can on Amazon, but I want you to be converting and bringing them to your list, because then you build that relationship with them. And the next time you sell something, you may not need to have to go to Amazon where they take that big cut out of what you do. Maybe that's a point. You set up your own Shopify store or something, another mode of selling to them, and then you're able to take more of the profits because they're just buying directly from you because you have that relationship to them.
Yeah, I like that. And I think in the end, it's a bit like the video versus email artificial distinction. People get very obsessed with Amazon versus Shopify or whatever, direct to consumer. People get very obsessed with Magento versus Shopify for that matter. I'm like, guys, let's just not lose track of the tech here. I think it's about the relationship, isn't it? If you've got a relationship with somebody, they trust you, that means something. If you've got an email list of 100,000 people who hate you and every time you subscribe, they blacklist you, it means nothing, right? And I've certainly been on the receiving end of enough of those, as we all have. So how do we get into the sense? So specifically, I mean, obviously we don't have to be so narrow as to only be for Amazon sellers, quotes unquotes, because a lot of quotes Amazon sellers these days obviously have their own D2C site and they're very busy trying to build that out, maybe successfully, maybe not. But nevertheless, let's keep that in mind as we go through. So I know you've got a 5-part framework. That's excellent. Like to hang things off a simple framework. So what are the key things we need to do to actually make this happen in reality?
Absolutely. So first thing and foremost, we need to be able to capture them in some way, shape, or form. And so we always recommend to our clients, create some sort of a landing page that describes exactly like who you are, what you do, and then what services they can buy from you. Now, if you're more trying to become like a general store, well, you'll obviously have to maybe potentially create different pages based on that, or create kind of like, this is the Brett store, i.e. like me, and then we sell different products. So when you run through the 5-part foolproof framework, now this has been responsible for generating 45 million for our clients. Number one, position the problem. What is the main problem that they have in their own words? Now, if I'm trying to come out, let's say I'm trying to sell weight loss, and I'm trying to come out and be like, if you do this, you'll lose weight. That's not the words I, Brett, am describing as the problem that I have. I want to lose weight for, let's say, my family, I want to walk my daughter down the aisle as an example. Whatever product I'm selling doesn't sound like it truly understands me. So number one, position the problem. Number two, paint the pain. Now this is again, in my words, the pain I'm going through. How can your product solve that pain? We're not yet talking about your solution yet, but we're mostly saying, I have these problems. I've either bought this protein powder and it's failed me. I've either tried these protein bars, it didn't work. They taste like crap, whatever it is. Or they're they're too much in sugar and then that's bad for me because I have health problems. Talk about my pain, because there's with everyone and their mama selling things online, you need to truly understand that you get me at the level I would say it to myself and my best friend when I'm complaining to him or her. Part number three, sing the solution. Now that you understand my problem, right? You positioned it, you understand my pain, sing to me the solution based upon how your product can solve that for me? How does it feel? Remember, emotions are everything. How does it feel when this problem is finally solved? What would I like? What's a sigh of relief that I let out? How do I go to my friend who I was just bitching? Sorry, I was complaining to. I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this. Who I was just complaining to? How am I then describing how good it feels for this to finally be accomplished? Part number 4, disclose the data. Now, this is where you need to prove you're not just a great salesperson. You need to have actual proof of why what you have is great. When I say proof, I'm talking about data. I'm not talking about testimonies yet, straight data. Let's again, in the fitness. What your data shows is yours is the highest protein or tastes the best or is the most affordable compared to the market or comes with all these other things that I want. This is just you stating proof or how like this will be the quickest way for you to lose that weight. Remember, again, you're going off of my position of the problem. And then number 5, offer up opportunities to overcome objections. This is all testimonies. When most people show testimonies, especially on Amazon or on an email list, they're usually like, this person bought my product and now their life is amazing. That's not a good testimony. What good testimonies are is where you meet them where they're at. What does that mean? Well, you say, this person had this problem. They came to me with these issues. We worked on these issues. Now their life looks like this. Walk me through the steps they went through to solve that problem. Because I, as a potential buyer, am going, have you helped anyone just like me? If I can't see myself in someone you've helped, you didn't demonstrate you truly understood me. And that's what's so key. So when you're able to sprinkle these components, this framework throughout your email autoresponder, I feel understood. I'm building a relationship with you. And whether I'm ready to buy today or even 4 months down the road, I know that you get me. That means I will be a buyer from you not only once, but hopefully again and again and again. And that's what's so key with emails.
Wow. Okay, this is great framework. I love it. Few reflections. I mean, firstly, positioning the problem. I'm going to swear on my own podcast now. I don't tend to do this, but I just really want to quote somebody because it's quite cool. Australian coach that I had, business coach. So business coaches, so not an e-commerce specialist. But he said, yeah, if you position the solution first, you come across as something we call in Australia, wankers. So in other words, you come across as being full of yourself. And of course, if you're fully of yourself, you're not focused on the client. In the client's minds, I'm not accusing anyone of actually being this, but that's the perception. And I think talking about the problem first, as you said, it's meeting people where they're at, right? I think that's, for me, that's the key phrase that springs out of everything you said, is kind of tracking where somebody's at in their own thought processes. And I really like that. And also, using the testimonies the right way. The other thing that strikes me is, have you helped someone just like me? I think that's a reason why the Benetton advert's one of the first ones to be, full of people of different ethnicities. And I think that was not them trying to be politically correct necessarily. It may have been, but also I think it's because they wanted to appeal to people just like me, and they had the maximum chance of doing that by having a variety of people there, right? So super smart. Let's dive into this a bit. I'm keen to get into the problem of list building as opposed to just list using, because obviously there's a huge art to that, and you've outlined a lot of this. If we're just sitting there, got an Amazon store, got maybe some data from Amazon that we can play with to do email append, things like that, maybe got a Shopify store but we're not really selling much on it. Let's paint that sort of scenario, and they come to you as a client. What's your first advice for actually building this list in the first place?
So also a very good question. You need to ask yourself, why would anyone want to be on your list? It's not like, get you on my list. Why should you be on my list? It's the first question you have to ask yourself. So a lot of people offer giveaways, or you get a discount, or whatever it is. You need to give them something, again, meet them where they're at, going back to the framework, that's going to entice them to give you something, i.e. their email, to want to get on your list. So you need to first ask yourself, do I believe in what I'm selling so passionately about? And this is, if you're just kind of selling some widget and you don't really care about it, it might be slightly harder. So you need to figure out your way of being like, these people are buying this product for a reason. If they're buying this product, they're probably buying in this wheelhouse of products, meaning they're probably looking to solve some sort of a solution. So if they're buying one thing, maybe they're going to need X, Y, and Z. Test out your lead magnet and be like, if you buy this, 10, 15, 20, whatever, if you want to use a discount, % off the next item you buy. Here's the next product listings that we have. Come up with something that's going to get them on your list. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what are the sort of two things really, best practices and mistakes that we see around? Let's deal with the mistakes first, and then the way to solve them.
For list building, you're saying?
Yes. What are the mistakes you see if somebody's offering list building, they're doing a giveaway, they've heard about it, it seems like a standard thing. What are the sort of standard mistakes that people make if they're not doing it the right way?
Yeah. So we're very simple people. We hit on the fundamentals all the time. Biggest mistake you make is putting the solution, like your Australian coach said, before the problem, not understanding where there are. So this will take you time, but I promise you, if you do this, you will then have a higher ROI from your list than anything else you'll ever do. Go back, contact, if you can, anyone that's ever bought from you and ask them why. Because if you can get in their own words exactly what they bought, that'll give you the data to put on the copy to test the language. Stop guessing, go to the source. And so usually when a consulting client comes to us and they have an e-com store, like as an example, we worked with an 8-figure olive oil company, the best olive oil, frankly, I've ever tasted in my life. They're based out of Greece. And they had people on their store, they're also trying to convert on their list. And they're also had people trying to get on their list and also trying to convert from their list. The problem was they were selling just like why this olive oil was good, but we had to talk about what the problems with all the other olive oils are. So we knew that their people cared about, I want authentic olive oil. I'm willing to pay more because the authenticity of this, knowing that it's like fresh and organic and like it's coming from Greece versus like chemicals in a factory. That's what mattered to them the most. We had to do that research to find out from the people that bought it. So take the time to figure that out, and that will directly tell you what words you need to put on your page.
Like it a lot. And this isn't the first time this concept's come up, but I think it's incredibly easy because it's just so much quicker and less scary than contacting people to just sit there and go, oh, I know what they think. And how did somebody put this? There's some really good quote, and I'm going to massacre, but I can't ascribe it to the right person either, so they shouldn't be too upset with me. I think it's, if you know how to listen, you don't need to be creative. I mean, that's not true, but I know what they mean. Like, you don't have to imagine the language. If somebody just literally tells you, just write it down, then I guess the creativity is weaving it in together with your messaging, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
Right.
I like it a lot.
Because same thing with cooking, right? Like, follow the recipe, but then add your own spices to it afterwards. But you got to make sure like you're following the recipe if someone's done it before, made a very delicious steak or whatever you want to be eating, because I had that last night. It was amazing. Same concept though. Don't reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been done for you. Add your own personality and your own branding to it after the proven concepts are put into place.
Yeah, it's great advice. I mean, I think especially email marketing and of any kind of internet marketing, it predates the internet for starters, doesn't it? So email marketing has structure. People have got it correct. You guys are clearly experts in this. And then your customers can give you the language, and then you just got to weave them. You just got to weave them together. Oh, that's it. We can all go home and drink coffee and relax. But seriously, obviously the list building, I don't know, maybe it's because of my personal obsession, because I find it's really hard. I think all of this stuff can be hard, but let's drill into this. This 5-part framework, does this cover everything you do, including email list building, or is most of this about once you've captured somebody into your email list? Where does this stuff apply?
So that's a beautiful thing about the framework. It goes from ads, it goes from your product description on Amazon, it goes to your landing page. Let's say you're selling something longer on a sales page. It might be a higher ticket item or even a VSL, it's your video sales letter script, and your emails, because it's framework. It's basically, imagine it, your rubric you need to read through to ensure that you wrote your copy the way it needs to be set up. That's how we always teach it. Because list building is just a form of it, right? It's the first stage. It's one of the earlier stages in your funnel. But that also goes back to like, do not shortcut your target avatar research. That is the most important part, is the most boring part. It is the least fun part, but it will pay you the highest ROI. And that's why a lot of people struggle, because they're looking for the shortcut to do this. They might see like a 5-day challenge. They might see a giveaway. They might see all these other things that someone else more successful than them is doing, try to mimic it, and it doesn't work. They become jaded and they throw in the towel. But they did the fundamentals and focus on that, they would have done that. Like, we don't preach anything sexy. We actually preach very boring, steady fundamentals that have generated 45 million in 12 years for that reason. Just like, do these things, you'll get these results, and it just don't put the cart before the horse. Fundamentals.
I like that a lot, because number one, fundamentals don't change. Again, I don't want to quote lots of people badly here. I can't remember who it was. probably Benjamin Franklin said something like, if you teach a man practices, then they will get out of date. If you teach them fundamentals or principles, I think he said, they're going to stay. So there's a totally massacred. That's probably not even usable in the podcast cut, but you know what I mean? So in other words, principles stick around for a long time, and that's great. Yeah. You can get good at those principles, and it's worth getting good at, because the platform's not going to disappear or become completely different. I mean, 12 years ago, Facebook was in its infancy. Amazon third-party selling didn't exist, which is really reassuring, because in 12 years' time, those things may no longer exist either. But I suspect even if email marketing doesn't, which would be hard to imagine, then these principles will, which is just fantastic, because then you're developing a skill which you can build on over your life instead of having to restart every 3 years because TikTok gets bought by somebody and then shut down, or whatever crazy stuff can happen. By the way, this is just my ideas, guys. Don't go buying TikTok shares on the back of my recommendations. So let's talk more about the how we are going to use this in a practical kind of way then. Okay, so we've got somebody who's got their Shopify store. They're an Amazon, store owner, insofar as you can earn anything on Amazon. Is it worth going and getting the old email append services working? Because I know some people have worked with in the past have done that and found some success. Is that good? Is it bad? What's your thoughts about that?
Wait, I'm sorry, I must misheard you. Repeat that. Is it good getting the email?
Let me just do a clean question here. So quite a few people who sell on Amazon will have lists of customers in a certain sense. They have a certain amount of data, which if they use email append services, they can get maybe, 20, 30% of those turned into emails. Is that wise to do that? If so, is that something you've ever done? Do you work with people that way?
Yeah. So you can totally do that. We have a whole cold outreach strategy, and just cold outreach is cold outreach. I know it's a form of that. The point being is people that did not raise their hand and opt into what you're doing. So there's two different kinds of list building, right? The one that has the highest ROI is someone saying, hey, I'm interested, please send me more information. The one that will not have the highest ROI, but it's easier to get into, meaning like it's a faster way, is buying lists or doing like, describe more what you were saying. Again, it all comes down to how well it's written, because you're guessing. You're going off the data that you have, making best educated guess that they don't know you, that you can help solve their problems. So what you need to do in those cases is truly position at the beginning that you are a credible expert in what you do, because now you have to overcome the mountaintop of social proof. So you still walk through the 5-part foolproof framework, but that emphasis on part number 5 of overcoming objections is not just have you helped someone just like me, but it's like you have to, so to speak, sell yourself, where when they opt into your email list, that's less of that, because they're already saying like, I want to learn from you. You've already been in the block. I'm following what you're saying. And so that really comes down to like the style of emails that we're writing. So in that case, let's say you're doing that, the initial emails you need to send out when you're talking about the framework, PS sections become a separate email inside the email. And so you can do the same style we're just talking about. In the PS, hey, you don't really know me. I totally get that. Here's where you can find out more about me, or like, here's some of my credibility, or here's some of this. Use PSs to say something that you couldn't fit into the actual email, because you don't want to cram everything into it. But what I love about PS is it doesn't make it that much longer. You're writing your normal email, sign off, Brett, PS, go here to learn more about me. You're gonna get a ton of unsubscribes. You'll get blocks. That's fine. Though people that stay on, you're slowly building that relationship. And at that time, if they go through about a 10 auto responder sequence from you, then they're gonna be more inclined to continue to listen to you, because they already like listen to you for that amount of time.
Nice. That's really it's really sophisticated response. I've never really heard anyone elegantly deal with this situation well. So in other words, I guess, again, the fundamental principle that you outlined, meeting them where they're at. But in this case, objections are going to come up front, like, who the hell are you? Why have you got my email address kind of question? And then you've got to very quickly say, before you panic, I do actually know what I'm talking about. I have your best interests at heart, etc. Right? I like that. So the PS is a very elegant way of doing it. Presumably you do links to, I don't know, whatever you got, podcasts, probably unlikely in auto in e-commerce, but maybe you got YouTube clips of people using your products. Maybe you got product detail pages. Maybe you got testimonials, that kind of thing.
Yes. Now you don't flood them, right? The whole idea here is like, it's just like we were talking about before we went live. Imagine you're going to a networking event, or you're going to a dinner, right? Or people are inviting you. A friend invites you to a dinner. There's gonna be a bunch of people there going to like 30, 40 person dinner. You don't know these people. You cannot go up there and be like, I'm Brett, I'm the best at what I do. They're gonna be like, go away. But you slowly start talking about a little bit of yourself where it makes sense. And then if they buy in, meaning in your case, open your email or not block you, then you can go into the second phase of what you do. So you position it. So you're slowly dropping it in, but at the same time, PS section and then your signature. So if I actually, for our business, we have 3 ways of generating clients. We have a cold outreach strategy, we have word of mouth, and we have our email list. So we have about a 50,000 person email list. We have word of mouth from our clients, and like I have a cold outreach. So I handle a lot of the cold outreach. Do I get cursed at and yelled at all the time? For sure. I'm used to it also from my days in raising money. So I'm going to make inspirational quotes based on what everyone's ever told me, because there's some of them are very funny. But I do get some really good responses because people are like, I like how you're saying this to me because it's not pushy. But in my PS, I just said what I told you, but in my signature, I have a link to my socials, a link to my website, a link to other places. I basically say, you have the ability, if you want, go check me out more. And I'm just trying to get you to go to the second email. I'm not trying to get you to buy right now. Just get to the next email. Just get to the next email. And I'm giving you all the social proof in the PS and in my signature that you can go ahead and snoop around if you're not comfortable yet doing that. Or I'll start dripping that to you in the actual content we start writing out in emails 2 and beyond.
Nice. That all reminds me as well. I used to do a direct sales job for a short time. It was really grim and I wouldn't want to do it anymore. But I do remember I learned a lot about sales in a short time. And intensive situations do that, don't they? Especially get feedback from a sales manager. Feedback in this case is a polite word for some of the conversations we had, but you learn fast. Yeah. So one of the things I learned is objections to buying signals. And that turned out to be incredibly true. So for example, if somebody doesn't trust you, that implies that they want to trust you. Well, what does that imply to me? Well, they're actually kind of interested. If somebody gets angry with you, normally that implies they care at some point in my experience. Mm-hmm. And if somebody doesn't trust you enough to do anything yet, but they're checking you out in your social media or asking about people, that's again a kind of buying signal to me, because why would they bother checking you out if they're not interested, right? So
100%.
Yeah.
I also want to just add I want to add one more thing, because so with my 2 other partners in our group chat, every time I get one of these inspirational quotes, is what I'm calling them, I always let them know because I find them so funny. There's one principle whoever's listening to this, you need to promise me that you will live by. It's called kill them with kindness. If you try arguing with them, if you try pushing back, remember, you entered their space. You cannot argue with them. And so what I always do is you validate, address it, and then I basically open the door for them to continue the conversation or opt out. Now, this is all over email too, I'm saying. What I mean is they're like, how dare you email me out of the blue? You're just another spammer. Validate. I completely understand where you're coming from. I know you don't know me. I want to apologize for that. I probably should have done a better job demonstrating who I am. Here's a little bit about me. If you want to learn more, go click here. But if you don't, just please subscribe. Please say like, no, thank you, and I'll opt you off the list. Or are you open to hearing what we have to talk about next topic? And what it does is that most people, I was going to say everyone, but it's not true. Most people, if you kill them with kindness, they will respond to you back with kindness. But if you're being mean and they're mean, well, then they're just going to hate you and like nothing happens. I've closed more sales from killing them with kindness because they were like, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry for reacting the way I did. And I go, no, you're validated for reacting the way you did because I'm entering your space. And they ended up becoming clients of mine because how we handle the communication, because clear and consensual communication is the biggest part.
I love this. By the way, people mess this up all the time. Just to grab my phone because somebody emailed me, said, hi, Michael, it's X from Y Brands. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm reaching out to reschedule your individual coaching call. What time could you commit to tomorrow? This is in a text. And I said, hey, X, what makes you think I have time tomorrow? Just email me, please. Thanks. So there's an assumptive close there, right? I assume you have time tomorrow. Clever, except it's just going to backfire because there's no reason for them to believe that I have time. And I really didn't. We've got this interview right now. And I said, just email me, please. And then they said, I did email and you didn't answer. So this is an example of kind of the opposite of what you're saying, getting shirty. And I said, okay, well, then there's your answer. Done. Yeah. So they've just kind of closed themselves out of the deal. I actually said, just email me. Again, the fortune's in the follow-up. So I'm giving them sort of free coaching there, which I'm sure they're loving me for. But the point is, I can totally understand why they get annoyed. You didn't answer me. But the onus is on you, isn't it? If you're making the effort, like the reason somebody didn't answer may never be clear. It may never be stated, but you've got to intuit it, or maybe ask and say, I'm really sorry that I bothered you, would have been a smart response. May I ask what a better date is? Like, what makes you think I could do tomorrow is saying I can't do tomorrow. It's obvious, right? So it's funny how we
Exactly.
forget. Now, another thing that you implied about the dinner party situation, which is oft quoted and very true in terms of human relationships, is the trouble is that technology doesn't make it easy to do that, does it? If you're mass emailing. So obviously the implication of what you're saying is if somebody opens, say, email number one, they may be ready to hear from you email number two. If they clicked on your links at social, at least they're curious about you. That implies some further action. So that implies to be automation and, behavioral adjusted automation or whatever you want to call it. How do we even begin to grasp that complex thing?
So first off, data and research is everyone. So I'm speaking to the person who's just starting to build off their list. Data, 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 data. Don't worry about getting fancy and a long autoresponder. I want you to basically writing customized emails based upon the people respond to you once you build your initial list. Let's say you're more advanced and you're doing this cold outreach strategy and you have, like in my case, I cold outreach, I don't know, like 3,000 people a month, give or take. And I'm constantly sifting through and changing things and whatnot. That comes down to data, data, data. Second part is adding more of your personality into it. Because again, like attracts like. I don't care if you're selling me this notebook. Like attracts like. There's a million of these notebooks. There's a million people on Amazon selling me these notebooks. There's only one of Brett selling me this notebook in an email. And so if you understand how I speak, meaning I, Brett, understand the prospects, I will then try to write some similarities. Because if you're using a notebook, I can only assume maybe it's for your business owner, work, or maybe your kid for back to school. So now I can start what we call adding personality or breaking the fourth wall, which in TV would be like commenting on a sentence, and just starting to add a little bit of personality to it. Not too much, a very subtle personality to it. It's like seeing a stand-up comic. They don't come with you with their best clothes. It's the buildup. They're looking for consent based on how the audience responds. And so you're adding slight personality to what you're doing and you're recognizing. So I have one email that says, look, I know a lot of people fumble this. And I want to acknowledge that I might be fumbling it right now. And so please let me know if you never want to be on this. You can opt out here. However, if you enjoy me kind of awkwardly trying to figure out how to like sell you, please continue on because I'm about to be talking about this. So again, I'm giving them every opportunity to get off my list. But then I'm also saying, if you're enjoying my kind of style, my sense of humor, here's what I have going on next. It's subtle. I'm not talking like we're not in their face about all these jokes or anything like that. Very subtle, walking them down compliance.
Wow. I mean, so there is a sophistication about this is when you begin to think that it's quotes just words, which it is. But of course, there's subtle psychology, there's sort of linguistic structures, which is why in the end, people specialize in this stuff. So I guess we better wrap up this segment so that it's absorbable because I think there's a lot of really deep concepts here. Talking of getting an expert to help, if people want to get some more help from you, what stuff do you do for e-commerce sellers that helps with email marketing?
Yeah, so we have two forms people can work with us. Number one, we do e-com consulting, where we'll come in and we'll look at your entire what's going on with your, let's say you're selling on Amazon, Shopify. We'll help you fix that copy there, and then we'll go ahead and we'll actually help you write out or coach you on how to write the emails. Or we do done for you, where we handle everything on your behalf, but you're learning how this happens at the same time. One of the biggest pitfalls we saw in the industry was that people would just hire someone and check in with them later on. That's not how we do our job. We teach you as we're going along, because if you cannot gauge this for yourself, that's the end of our container. If you ever go hire someone else at a different point, it's like going to a mechanic and not knowing what's wrong with your car. You can be taken advantage of. We show you and teach you why we're doing everything that we're doing and show you the data to ensure that it's converting. And we're so confident in what we do, respectfully, that we offer a money back guarantee that if you don't hit what we agreed upon before, you don't make your money back that you initially invested in us. You get all your money back in the questions asked. And we're showing you every week the progress on what we're doing, as well as you're getting your copywriting education. Now, if those two buckets aren't what people want to do, anyone that wants to learn more about us, they can take our free training called Post for Profits, and it teaches you a lot of these concepts that we just talked about. And it was a 2-day training, but you'll just get the video so you can watch on your own record. And I'm happy to give you the link to how to get there. You just opt in to our email list if you want, with consent, of course. And that training can walk you through exactly how to basically go over the deep concepts that you want. And then you have the ability, if you want to hire us to talk about more about consulting or done for you, we're always happy to have that conversation as well.
Amazing. By the way, I'm always begging my podcast guests to have a transitional call to action, as it's sometimes called. I think in StoryBrand, right? That have some kind of soft call to action to do email capture. I would say 95% of them don't do it. And of course, these are email marketers specializing in the dark arts, so-called, of info marketing. So if they're not doing it, then it shows it's not widespread. So thank you for having one of those. So that is free training, post for profits and video training, right? Great stuff.
Yeah.
Where do people go to get that?
So I'm going to give you a link. So it's going to be wellspringmedia.com/email. And I'll give you a link so you'll have it in the podcast notes. It's actually embarrassingly enough being finished in the next 2 days. So I will get it to make sure you have it. So everyone that's listening, in the show notes, you'll be able to click on it. We just had a snafu with the old link. So I apologize. I couldn't get it done for today, but it's a training that'll walk them through everything. And then on our email list, you'll immediately get access to it.
Amazing. And you've led with the soft call to action, but if for those who are ready to plunge in and go, and I can think of a couple of clients who I would probably be advising to talk to somebody like yourselves, because I perceive they have so much opportunity there. If somebody wants to work with you straight away, how do they contact you? What's the best way?
So the best way for someone to contact me right now is through my Facebook page. That's Brett Kaufman /18. I will also give you that link. It's actually how we initially met. And that that's where I communicate the most on my social media. It's a direct contact to me. It's not through a VA or anyone else. You're always speaking to us. We do not outsource anything. We believe that because words matter, we want to make sure we are in your business and not outsourcing to somebody else, because that's how we guarantee the highest results. So Facebook is the best way to directly communicate to me for that. And if you want to get through the training, we'll also put that so that that'll be in the email list. So you'll be able to do both if that fancies you.
Awesome. I love this. I mean, I'm a words-based person. I guess my mum was a language teacher, so was my grandmother. So I'm somewhat biased, but I feel there's just always so much opportunity in email marketing because it's somewhat neglected. It isn't as sexy as TikTok, which everyone's obsessing about right now. And I look at it with a certain degree of skepticism. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can get 2 million views on TikTok. But my question is simple. How much is that translating into sales? How much is that under your control? Do you own it? At which month, never mind which year, is TikTok going to suddenly make organic visibility very difficult and you're going to have to pay for ads? It's pretty obvious. If I own TikTok, so that's the first thing I would do. And by the way, if you don't own TikTok, Facebook probably will next week or, next year. So you can see where these things go, right? So I think there's a defensibility about email marketing. There's a timelessness about it. And then there's factually, as you say, data or data, as you put it, is basically, you can't mess with the data around email marketing. It is simply the best. So I'm a big believer in it, and I'm really grateful to have you sort of banging the drum for it. So we're going to come back and talk about how you maximize the value of an email list shortly. But in the meantime, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Of course.
Excellent. You reacted very quickly to me stopping the recording. What I meant to do is mute myself. I just used the wrong keyboard shortcut like an idiot. Sorry, folks. So if you're listening live, this is the reality behind the scenes of my idiocy. Somebody's asking something about Amazon seller supplier. Okay, well, the internet's a full contact sport. And as usual, there's some people asking utterly irrelevant questions. If you're the person asking about that, we're talking about email marketing, my friends. So we're not going to talk about that today. I should have specified questions, my dear friends, about email marketing for e-commerce. That's what I'm trying to ask for. Okay, so maximizing the value of the email list. Let's plunge in once again. Ladles and jelly spoons, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast for 6, 7, and 8-figure Amazon and e-commerce sellers. Today, we're talking with Brett Kaufman from Wellspring Media, a real expert in and a passionate advocate for, I would say, email marketing. So welcome back to the show, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking today about maximizing the value of an email list. And you've got a very cool framework you work within. Perhaps we better get you to reiterate your 5-part sort of principles, because I know that you said that applies to everything you do, really, email list building and the emails themselves.
Yes. For those of you who are not listening to the first show, so it's called the 5-part foolproof framework. It's been responsible for us generating 45 million for our clients in 12 years. It applies to all areas of your funnel, but specifically, it works very well in email. And so the first step is position the problem. Now, in position the problem, what you need to do is, in their own words, describe the main problem that they have, and we're not going to solving it. So what's the main problem that they have in their own words? I'm slowing down to emphasize that, because if they don't feel like you can speak their language, then they're not going to move further down. That's number one. Part number two, paint the pain. And what paint the pain means is, again, now that we position the problem. So again, like the last example that we were talking about, let's do a different example. Let's do dating, right? We'll use the dating example. Dating one is, I want to find a wife. Okay, that's the problem. The pain is that I don't know how to talk to women. I've been scared. I have anxiety. I have all these different things, or I've been blown out. I've had my heart broken. I have all these things that have happened to me that make me very scared to do that. That's the pain. Problem, in my own words, I want to find a wife. I don't know how. Or let's girlfriend. We'll go a step lower. Girlfriend, I don't know how. Pain, heartbroken. I get rejected a ton. I feel anxiety around that I'm short, that I'm overweight, whatever the things that person has. Sing the solution. How does it feel to finally have this problem solved on their behalf? Meaning you are, in this case, selling the dating course, a dating program, whatever it is. How does that feel to finally have that accomplished? Well, in their words, it feels amazing now that I feel so comfortable in my skin, and I feel like I am I know who I am at the core. I know the kind of man I want to be. And now I finally have the partner. So notice, it wasn't now that I have a girlfriend. I finally feel so confident in who I am. I finally feel like I'm the person I want to be. That's the pain underneath the pain. So you prescribe the solution underneath the solution. This is the subconscious stuff. Disclose the data. This is now actually using hardcore data to back up what we're saying. So it could be that I'm making things up, so no one quote me. Men under 30 living in Miami, where I live, struggle with meeting women for X reason. You need to use an actual statistics based on the data to support why what you do is necessary, and it overcomes that, because our brain is wired for, we need emotional proof, we need logical proof, and that's the data. And then of course story proof, which is like the entertainment part. Part number 5, offer up opportunities to overcome objections. Now, this part is the most important part. So when we talk about testimonies, most people would be like, this guy took my program. Now he's dating the love of his life. That's good, but not great. What great is this was Brett. Brett struggled to find, to meet his partner, because Brett had a lot of nerves about walking up to strangers, right? Brett was overweight. Brett was short, and Brett didn't feel confident in his skin. So you notice, short, I can't control. Overweight, yeah, you can kind of control, and not confident in skin. Now what you do is you show a testimony being like, after Brett and I worked through each other, we've worked on the following things. Now his life looks like this, meaning now he's dating love of his life. So if you notice how we all tied in the previous thread together to overcome the testimony, literally stacking what I just solved for them in the testimony. Why is that important? Because if I'm looking for your course, like attracts like. So if I don't see myself in what you do, if I don't see you help someone directly like me, I'm not going to trust you to solve my problem. It's supposed to be this nuance. It's supposed to be this in the weeds with the data and in the weeds with the words, because that shows and demonstrates that you truly have gotten them. And that's what gets someone to go, you just get me and I trust you. And with so many people in the space offering such similar things as all of us, this allows a person to be like, I'm going with you because I know you truly get me, and I know you can truly solve my problem over anyone else in the market.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for reiterating that, because I think it's such a great framework for any form of marketing, really. If you're writing advertising copy on a product detail page like on Amazon, where you don't get that much control on that space, I would still say these are an amazing set of principles to follow. And I like what you said at the end as well. The nuance matters. I think this is why a lot of people fail with private label products, never mind their email marketing to sell them. But the entire product doesn't work very well because it nearly hits the mark, but it doesn't really hit the mark. And people have really sophisticated way. They may not be able to express it or market themselves, but consumers are very sophisticated at sniffing out whether you really get them or nearly get them, right? That's been my experience. I mean, I'm the same. And if somebody emails me and they're offering me, for example, a guest for the podcast, and they don't really get the needs of my audience, which I'm there to kind of fight on behalf of, I'm like, you just don't get it. And I'll probably just say, this is not relevant. Or, if I've got time, I might say to my assistant, look, Von, go and make them jump through the hoops of filling out this, that, and the other, because I knew they need to prove themselves, because they've downgraded themselves in my mind. So there you go. Okay, so let's talk about how do we implement this stuff. It's assumed now that in this episode we're talking about we've got an email list. We've somehow managed to build it, which is fantastic. So I guess we've got to differentiate. We've already talked about the warm versus cold email list. Let's assume we've got people to opt in to something, maybe on our own Shopify site or something. So we've got a warmish list. How do we start to actually structure things? Because there's so much that we could do. Feels a bit overwhelming. So let's simplify it down for people who haven't done this.
So similar, like we talked about last time, an autoresponder is the best friend for you. But now the autoresponder needs to meet them where they're at. Again, I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same fundamentals because it's so important. You need to treat someone on your warm email list just like a warm introduction where someone's meeting you, like a friend's introducing someone. So as an example, we like to use, so the first email we always like to send out is like, hey, welcome to who we are. You may not know us that well. So first off, there's a giveaway, some sort of whatever to get you on my list. Here is that reward for opting in. Thank you so much. Then we usually like to say in the upcoming emails, here's what you can expect. Just like a great book, you open the table of contents, right? Chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to let them know what's coming next. Why? Because I want to get them excited and looking forward to something. So we give them, here's your giveaway, here's your whatever. Here's what to expect in the upcoming few emails. And then we go to the first email. And usually the first email is a little bit about that solving a quick win for them. Even if I'm not talking about necessarily selling something yet, but a quick win for whatever that is. Let's say, even if they're buying something on Amazon, here's something you may not have known about the industry, or here's how to scout if this is a good product versus a bad product. Here's how to know that you need this version of this versus the other version of that. Why? Because I'm demonstrating trust and credibility. Then I give my take on it. And then again, in the PS, in the next email, look out for this. So the next email, we usually take the story, right? How we came to be, who we are, and why you should opt into what we do, right? So we can share a little bit about ourselves. The next email, Q&A. Here's the most common questions we have about what's going on. Next email, limiting beliefs. Now, these aren't necessarily like in exact order, but you can always intertwine these. Limiting beliefs or myths about the industry. Here's why you thought buying this is actually the right way of doing it, but in fact, it's wrong. I'll give you an example. Referencing the olive oil company that we did, where we 6x their revenue from their emails just by adding these frameworks into them. I didn't know this until we were working with them, and we had to do the research that there's a lot of olive oil that is made with that says organic. It's not actually organic. So there's a lot of like crap in the industry. So we had to educate them on why these things are bad and why you cannot walk down your grocery store anymore and identify that that's good olive oil. Here's what to now look for when buying olive oil. Why was that important? Because then we talked about why buying the next email, great olive oil is best for your health. Next email, why we were created in Greece and why we can help you with these health concerns that you might have. The next email, oh, by the way, here's some discount. If you want to buy 50% off in the next 24 hours, buy our olive oil here. You see how we built up the trust? We didn't just sell you the email, we sell you olive oil at the beginning. We built up trust, overcame your beliefs, told you who we are, told you how we can directly benefit you. And then here's a special reward for staying with us for this long. Go ahead and buy.
It's interesting. Now, I know that, I say interesting, I mean, impressive is what I'm saying. The interesting thought for me is this. Most e-commerce sellers that I know that do email marketing do the following. Somebody gets on their list, nothing. 6 months later, here's a 30% discount because it's Cyber Monday, or if you're lucky, or even worse, because we're launching a product and I really need you to help. So this is violently different. But my question is, this is obviously a lot of work. Why does this work better? Or how do you justify to the person who's going, yeah, but I can just send one email and I'm done. How do you justify all the extra work that's implied by this?
Yeah, look, you can send one email and you're done. We have a client who does $500,000 a month selling. He actually sells in the Kratom space. And all we did was we injected this framework into it. And now he does $750,000 a month. And so it's just small tweaks. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but once you understand how to do it, the growth is ridiculous. So that you have to ask yourself as a seller, am I willing to put in the work for the ROI? Because most people, when they're selling, they're trying to either get as much people in on the initial ad spend. And the idea is that, yeah, they'll just have their email, you'll have their email on the list, but that's about it. Okay, great. Your email is an afterthought. I'm saying make your email the primary focus. because your ad account can get shut down at any single time, but the email is the one channel that you control forever. So if you spend the time building the relationships, you take the time now to lay the fundamentals and the foundation, you'll be able to benefit from your list forever, not just Cyber Monday or Black Friday, for whenever you want to sell to them.
Yeah. And by the way, so you're talking about risk mitigation there, I guess. Your ad account, I presume you're talking about your ad account, meaning Facebook account, most of all.
Yeah, in that case.
Yeah, because that happens so often, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Amazon account suspension and listing suspension happen less often, but sadly not as infrequently as we'd want. And again, if you have a Shopify store or any kind of direct-to-consumer store, hell, if you haven't, you can set one up pretty quickly with somebody you can hire, a Fiverr, I'd imagine. I'm not saying the greatest in the world, but if you had to, you've got a set of buyers, right? And it's just an amazing defensive thing that I think people miss. If you think of email as tangential, then you don't take it seriously. If you think of it as an alternative to saving your, butt, if Amazon takes you down, that puts a whole different value on it, right? Have you got any client stores of somebody actually doing that?
Of which part?
Basically having their Facebook ads turned off and being able to keep their business running through email.
So that exactly happened to two of our clients. And what ended up happening was for 3 months, give or take, because they're like slightly different. That was an issue that they had, and all they had was their email list to rely on. And they're emailing their list every once in a while. But the idea was like, we didn't like all of a sudden go from like one email to like 20 emails, the slow drip to build up with the emails, because again, it's all relationships. They were ended up able to make more from their email list than they were from their ad account. And so when their ad account got put back into place, yeah, they still put it on. They just saw how profitable their email was because they built the relationships. And there's many ways of doing that. And so when somebody buys from you once, it's the same psychological principle we talked about last time. They are more inclined to buy from you again and again because they have a great experience from you. So it's not about acquisition on the front, in our opinion. This is our stance. Like, actually, this is the hill we'll die on. It's not about acquisition on the front end. It's about monetization on the lifetime value of the customer on the back end. How long can I keep you a customer on my list? And how much value can I continue to give to you? Because if you're going to buy this one product, you might buy these other products that you might also find interesting. It doesn't cost me anything more, right? Let's say I'm selling on Amazon too. I don't need to put my now new product on Amazon. Just sell it to my list and skip the Amazon fee. So there's many ways of doing that once you have a list that is so used to hearing from you and enjoys hearing from you.
Yeah, this is the stuff I love about email marketing. In a sense, people think their website is their asset. And I would say in a lot of cases, I'm not suggesting anyone should do this, but apart from having the sales page, the rest of the website probably could be ditched and actually you do very well. It's there to capture emails and to fulfill demand. I think people put too much emphasis on beautiful websites that don't do anything, in my opinion. What are your thoughts about it? Is this just too kind of tongue in cheek here?
Well, website is a box you need to check. And so it's great credibility, right? So funny enough, we're actually rebranding our website and people start giving us some crap of like, where's your website? You're spam. And I'm like, I totally get exactly where they're coming from because they now use it as a way of like, it's kind of like how you're dressed, right? But again, let's go back to the dinner example. If I'm going to the dinner in shorts and t-shirt and everyone else is wearing formal wear, people are going to look at me in a certain way. Or if I'm the guy wearing a really nice suit where everyone's like a little bit more casual, I'm standing out in a good way, right? And so that's the idea. I'm not saying go spend all your money on a website because that's not what we're saying, but a website will help with credibility. It'll be another needle mover, but it won't be the biggest needle driver.
Yeah, well put then. Yes, you got to have it there. But I suppose what I'm implying, and you put it very well, you've got to have it there. But if you spend all evening worrying about your, suit looking crisp and you don't interact with anyone like a human being, they'll probably just think of you as a rather starchy, smart, maybe even desirable if you're talking about dating. But there's not going to be a connection, right? Whereas I guess what you're talking about with email is it's making the human connection. It's actually moving things forward. It's getting people to go from interested to transactions and stuff like that. Okay. Now you've talked about monetization on the back end. And so we're talking, I guess, you mentioned data, as you put it, data, whatever we call it. Then let's talk a little bit of numbers to wrap this up a bit for the more numbers driven entrepreneurs. And many of people in e-commerce are very, very numbers driven in my experience. How do the numbers stack up? So if it costs you a certain amount to get somebody to subscribe, and this is a bit of a how long is a piece of string, but in the e-commerce world, let's say if somebody has a direct to consumer site. how long does it take to sort of wipe that out and balance that cost of, the cost of acquiring customer, the CAC cost versus the lifetime value, if that's the equation you use?
Yeah. So we always give like raw metrics to go off of again, but it's all specific based on exactly what you need. You're looking for on average 10 to 20% open rates. You're looking for about a 3 to 5% click-through rate. Again, low conservative numbers. So I'm being very like conservative for a reason. Because that's just getting engagement. Now, I'm gonna give a little bit of a nugget that we learned the hard way many times a while ago. Do not bold your links, because if you bold your link, that will then go to the promotional tab on Gmail, not the primary tab. Primary tab is the main inbox. So there's little subtle things in when you send out emails to people that can get you in inbox jail. As another example, in the subject line, write like you're writing to a friend. If you're like, hey, 10% off, Gmail is going to categorize that is a spam email, or it will think it's spam even if it may not be. So it's all about the context of what you're saying. Kind of another small nuance. If you're flooding your email with a bunch of GIFs and the people have not opened them recently, Gmail's going to think it's spam, because email at the beginning of the day was what? An electric mail. What was mail used for? Communication amongst friends or business relationships or lovers. Always treat your email list like those things. So ask yourself, does this feel like I'm speaking to someone, not to everyone? And those nuances will help, even if you have poor click-through rates or opt-ins, to make sure you're not in promotional jail. Because I've had people that come to us and have had these metrics, but a lot of their emails have been in promotion. And I'm like, yeah, because like you're doing some of these fundamental things not correctly. So let's fix those. I don't care if we see a dip in the numbers, getting more eyeballs on the actual emails, and that will obviously convert more in sales.
Now, for those who are really into the details, they'll know that the iOS update recently has messed with a lot of metrics like open rates and click-through rates, because Apple's kind of defending its consumers against you understanding them. I'm not personally convinced that I actually want that, even though an Apple user, if I'm going to be advertised that, I'd rather be advertised relevantly. But anyway, we don't get into all the universe. There seems to be a reality out there. So how are you handling that situation?
Again, I'm all about capturing emails because I know tracking data. That's why like open rates used to be the thing. It's like less important now. What I'm tracking is click-through rates. And what I'm tracking is lifelong engagement in the list. So what does that mean? This is a different data point. So again, for all my number geeks like me, this hurts me a little bit, but then it is what you can track later on. We send, call every 4 to 6 emails. This is what we call check-in emails. We're like, hey, what did you think of this? Or hey, are you interested in this upcoming thing? Or hey, it's basically short emails that are getting them to respond back. Because what Gmail looks for is engagement. Are they responding back to you? Again, email, electric mail, it's friends talking. When we made it about business and only selling, we got in trouble. Get as much engagement back. And that's why every once in a while, we're always like, hey, are you still interested in this? Hey, do we want to take you off this list? Just click here. Like the idea is like, we're trying to get people to respond to us, even if it's to opt off our list, because what Gmail will also notice, especially if you're sending, like you have a mass list and when they go to the inboxes, if you're sending it to a ton of people that don't really care about you, that does nothing. It actually hurts your deliverability score. So it's all about I'd rather have a smaller list, higher engagement than a large list with lower engagement. And that's all about scrubbing the list to make sure that people are responsive.
So I guess what you're doing there is kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because well, at least 3 actually. Number 1, you're kind of acting like a human being, asking questions and hoping for a response. Yeah. Number 2, you're giving people who are high value prospects a chance to put their hands up and go, hello, very unsubtly. If they actually send you an email, that's more than a click, isn't it? Because they've got to type at least a few words. Right. And number 3, you're increasing the deliverability. That's super smart. That's kind of very elegant little tactic there. I like that very much. So what are the other stats that we should be looking for into the financial stats then? So that's some of the sort of marketing stats. How do the financials of it tend to play out? And this is how long is a piece of string? Because I know you work with a broad variety of clients. But again, with the e-commerce situation, I guess let's allow Facebook ads into the equation, if you will. How do the numbers stack up?
The numbers stack up that you, on average, someone should buy from you every 4 months. And doesn't matter like what you're selling, right? The idea though is that that's what we've seen as the average buying cycle from our people. And so in that case, you're buying initially. Let's say you bought and got on my list. I have 4 months of giving you value and like, yeah, showing you some other cool things. But the next time I'm going to like, so to speak, hard pitch you will be in a quarter, like a little less, obviously 4 months, slightly more than a quarter. So that use that framework of like once a quarter is probably an easier way to do it. Because again, like you said, how long is a business string? It all varies based on your industry. Once a quarter, you have permission to sell them, like hard sell them, because they already got a ton of value from you. Hard sell them once a quarter. So that's why we see the lifetime value of someone. We know that if you've been on my list for a year, you will have bought 4 things from me. My average ticket size, and again, I paid 1 time to acquire you. Now I 4x'd what you made in revenue based on what you paid for me because you bought 4 times from me. And so that's the always metrics that we're looking on. What do I need to do to get you to buy once a quarter? That's like our golden rule every time we're sending out broadcast emails.
Wow. So that's actually pretty gentle. I'm just thinking guiltily, I've probably been hammering most of my email lists for most of my life. What I need to do to get you to buy once a quarter. Again, there's another sort of direct selling cliche, I guess, that springs to mind, which is that desperation smells. So in other words, a prospect really smells when you need to sell to them because you've got to hit a metric for yourself or for your sales manager or for your family to eat and run away a bit, right? I mean, where do you see people making mistakes in this sort of way?
Not targeting. I'm sorry, not tagging and targeting, because if you just listen to that and you were like, okay, but I just got 1,000 people to get on my email list. Now that means every quarter I should expect a bump. No. 1,000 people are not joining your email list at the same time. It's all stagnant. So your sales, you're able to project out your sales because your quarter is different than my quarter. And that's why tagging is so important, because I know, all right, Brett's coming up to his 3-month mark. Let's offer him a specific promotion. But when we just see the mistake of like, buy now, 50% off, buy now, 75% off. It's like, if I'm going to get an email from that once from you, I know I'm going to get it again and again and again. But if I'm getting it specific around quarters, well, guess what? You get to flirt with holidays easier because it ties in. You get the actual ability to then use real scarcity because you might only generally have something in stock because your list now knows that they're not always getting the same broadcast emails at the same time, because people will know that like, hey, my time is up for sale versus someone else. So your tags are so important based on when they bought, based on their interest. So I always like to send out like either whether it's survey, what are you interested in? Or I like to send out, here's some upcoming products, reply back if you'd like to hear more about it. My tags are my lifeline. If I don't have the data on you, I'm sending you generic emails. If I'm sending you generic emails, eventually you can be like, this isn't written to me, this is written to everyone.
Wow. Yes. That's really good stuff. And we're talking about segmentation, but I guess you're talking about self-segmentation in a way, in some ways, but yes. I don't know what tell me a bit more about this, because this sounds really important. So what people bought, I guess you can tag people pretty straightforwardly through most systems like Shopify, especially based on what they bought. Not if you sell on Amazon, I guess that's going to be harder. Interests. And you said you sent people to survey. Tell me how that works.
So I'll send them a survey, be like, hey, I'm just thinking one example we have. So let's go back to olive oil. They sell more than just olive oil. Shocking. So they sell like cooking books, and they sell like just different things that they offer. They also have like a rewards and royalty program and like affiliate things. So it's like, hey, do you know a bunch of other people that would be interested in olive oil? Click here, you can become an affiliate, right? So that's another segmentation. Hey, do you want to learn how to cook authentic Greek, because it's from Greek dishes? Okay, click here. You can then get into our recipe club. So there's a bunch of different little nuances based on the other products that I have to offer. That's my survey. It's not like, how was your experience? It goes, I'm segmenting them based on their interests for what I have to offer them to get them to buy later on, really, not buy tomorrow.
So you're basically offering them a series of options, which is sort of buying or prelude to buying or something. Yep. I mean, I guess being an affiliate is a bit a slightly different relationship. But you're not just saying, how did you find our service kind of thing? Like those lame text things you get after you've bought from couriers or something saying, how did you find the fact that we failed to deliver your stuff? So I was finding really lame. So that's good. I like it a lot. Well, look, you've always got just tons to offer people. If people want to hear more from you, just remind us what things you do for people you work with, your clients.
So there's two ways we work with people. Number one, if you're looking for consultancy, we're happy to come in and consult on how to actually build out your automated sequence. That is more for someone that already has a team member that they already do, or you yourself want to understand email marketing and become an expert, like meaning you want your fingers on the keys. We'll come in and consult with you, and we'll show you how to build out that auto sequence, and we'll show you how to track your data. If you're like, Brett, I'm really busy, I got other things I got to focus on, we have a done for you service that will actually come in and we'll do everything on your behalf. Now, everything with our done for you service comes with a money back guarantee, which means if you don't make your initial investment in us by the end of our time working together, you get all your money back, no questions asked. Now, the done for you service, I need to be very specific on this, requires you. Why is that? Because words matter. If they're reading the emails and does not feel like it's directly coming from you and your business and your brand, they're not going to buy, which means we require your involvement in this process. Every week when we meet with you, we will show you exactly what we wrote, and we'll give you every opportunity to tear it apart. Because if it does not sound like you guys, if it doesn't have the same framework, the same language, the same pop culture references that your company would use, it will not convert to the highest degree. So we ask you to tear it apart, because that's how we'll know that it will convert. It needs to sound like you, and then we need to test everything for A/B conversions. Those two together allowed us to generate that 45 million, like I talked about earlier. The third bucket, if you just want to learn more and you're not ready to kind of like opt in, you kind of just want to check us out a little bit more, we have a training called Post for Profits. Now, this applies exactly to social media posts or how to write emails, and it walks through that 5-part foolproof framework. It's a 2-day training, but it's not really 2 days in your case because you're watching the replays of it, but it'll walk you through everything, and that is on our email list. So that'll be at wellspringmedia.com/emails, and I will drop the link in the show notes because, like I told Michael in the last one, it's still being developed, but it'll be finished, meaning the website we had an issue. That'll be put up in the next, hopefully, 2 days. By the time this podcast will be released, it'll definitely be up, and then you can get that training automatically sent to you, and you get to see how we can, so to speak, sell you an email. It's kind of proof of the concept.
Absolutely. Yeah. The lovely thing about email marketing trainers is that you can just follow, you just subscribe to their list and see what they do. I'm not saying that's all you should do, but the very, very least you should do is that, right? So it's a super smart way to learn your 7 email framework, and you watch out for the pitch in email 7 and see if it matches, and, and click on a few links to see what other emails you get. It's always good fun. So Brett, this has been really, really fantastic. I really like the psychological sophistication that you bring to this, the problem behind the problem, the solution behind the solution. That's proper marketing thinking, in my opinion. A lot of people skip that stuff. So this is good, deep work, and it's obviously showing up really well in the results for your clients in dollars and cents, as they say. So final question for you is, what question should I have asked you that I haven't asked you?
How much patience should you have with your email list? I think that would be the biggest question. We treat emails like dating, in the sense that or being married, either or. I'm not married, so I cannot speak on that front. But in regards to dating, you need that patience. There will be times to be very frustrated with your list. There'll be times where you're trying to, you wish your list was responding a certain way. Everything's about clear and consensual communication, just like in any good relationship. You need to treat your list like you're dating the person, like you're talking to your friend. If they don't feel like it's a one-on-one conversation, it will not convert to the highest degree. That is the biggest piece of advice we can always give people, because people love to be sold. It's a misnomer that people think they don't. People want to be sold. Sell them in the way they want to be sold. The best example of doing this, think of your favorite movie. How would you describe your favorite movie to a friend? You're not selling them to go watch it. You're describing how amazing it is, and they're going to be like, oh my God, I want to go watch it. Same thing with your emails. Don't sell me. Describe it to me. Make me excited by it. And then obviously I'm going to go buy it.
I like that very much. I was weirdly enough, this is pop culture references. My family and I were watching Family Guy last night, and there's a spoof version of Star Wars. And I said, that's actually really close to the original. I looked across at my wife and said, so of course you've seen Star Wars. She said, no. I said, oh, you've got to see it. And then sort of bored her for 3 or 4 minutes about it. I'm not sure I did a very good job in selling, to be fair. But, I told the story of how I went queued up to see it when I was 6 and we couldn't get in because the queue was so long. And, that dates me. Yeah, so there you go. It's very organic. It's exactly the thing, the very same conversation I had last night. So you have definitely, Brett, entered the conversation in my mind, or the way that I've been speaking. So you're a skilled marketer, I can tell from the very experience I'm having right now. So Brett Kaufman, Wellspring Media, folks, if you want to check that out, very, very worth checking out everything this man has to offer. I think there's a sophisticated work going on here. Brett, final thing to say is just simply thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
That's the recording done, folks. If you're with us live or if you've been watching the replay, first of all, well done for your stamina. That's been quite a long interview. Brett, thank you for your stamina as well. There's just a lot to unpick that I'm genuinely very, very curious about as a marketer, as a person. So do ask any questions if you've been listening or watching the videos, and we'll circle back around. But in the meantime, better let this man go and run his empire. So we better let you go, Brett. Thank you so much for coming on live with us as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thank you, everyone.